Hey guys, back in the booth here. We got another trial. What we're going to do in this video is I'm going to take half this fender. We've already got base coat on it. I didn't want to bore you guys with that video, but I'm going to take half of it and we're going to try to stack clear. And what I mean by that is we're going to probably put 5 coats on one side, and what we're going to do on the other side is we're going to put 3 coats of clear, let it cure, sand it down, and flow coat it. And I'm gonna see what the difference is as far as, you know, cutting and buffing and polishing on either one. So we're gonna compare them and see what we got. All right, here's what we got so far. We got 4 coats on this side, 3 on this side. And we're kind of rushing this side pretty much. We done ran the hell out of it. But we're stacking the clear on this baby. We got 1 more coat to go. We've let this thing sit over the weekend. This is what we got. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tape it off about halfway. This section has 5 coats of clear on it, stacked. This section has 3 coats of clear. We're gonna zip this down with some 800 grit, and then we're gonna flow coat this side with a couple more coats of clear. As you can see, we got it all scuffed up. Still got a little more prep to do, but we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna take it from here and put 2 more coats of clear on top of this. Hey guys, we've let this thing sit for probably 2 months outside, just letting everything cure, you know, getting everything worked out of all the solvents. So now we're back 2 months later, and like before, you can see it now. This side has 5 coats of clear stacked back to back to back. This side, we put 3 coats on, just zipped the top of it off and re-cleared it. Some people call it a flow coat, or call it re-clearing, whatever you want to call it, but basically we zipped it down just to re-clear it. All right, so why would we do one versus the other? Well, let's talk about some pros and cons. A pro, if you want to stack clear, you're already in the booth, you're already dirty, sweaty, you're already taped, everything's already taped up, you've already painted it, and now you're clearing it. Well, if you put, say, 5 coats, 4 coats, whatever you need to do, you know, you're already there. Put your 5 coats of clear on it or 4 coats of clear on it, and you don't have to untape it and sand it and redo it. It's double the work. So there is a good point about this. It's one time, do it and you're done. You're gonna have to cut and buff it regardless, depending on the quality of refinish you want. Why do it twice? That's what some people are saying. Well, let's talk about a negative. If you don't know backwards and forwards what clear you're spraying and how it reacts to different thicknesses, you might run into a problem with solvent pop or trapping solvents. So you don't want to just come in here with a fresh clear on a big job and just go full ham and spray 4 to 5 coats of clear on it without knowing what your product is capable of doing. If you do that, you're probably going to have a bunch of issues. So the solvent pop, if you don't know what that is, I'm going to briefly explain it. Basically, it's solvent that gets trapped in between different layers. So if you put, you know, per manufacturer, put 2 coats of clear on it, you're good to go. But if you want to put 4 to 5 coats, you better be careful, because you're going to do that and you're going to trap solvents in between your coats. And then once it basically crusts over, the solvents underneath the top release, and it ends up with a pop, and it ends up with a little dimple or crater, and you could have that sporadically all over this thing. So one advice I could say is, if you're going to stack clear, A, know what clear you got, know how it reacts to, you know, multiple layers and how many layers you can put on it without a problem. And B, give yourself plenty of flash time in between those coats. I mean, your first couple coats, 1 and 2, you may have a 15-minute flash, but as you get into 3, 4, 5 coats, you might end up with a 1 hour flash time. You got to be careful with that. So I would recommend trying out whatever clear you have. If you want to do this, try it on something small, such as a fender, and see what kind of reaction you get with it, and then kind of play with it. And now then you'll know before you go do a whole paint job of what you're capable of doing. So with a flow coat or a recoat or reclear, whatever you want to call it, one of the positives for it, or pro, is that you're gonna get a flatter surface. If you're just gonna pull it out the booth and give it to the customer, you're probably gonna have a flatter surface. You might have a couple of dirt nibs or something you got to touch up, but you shouldn't have as heavy as an orange peel. Hence the name flow coat. They want it to flow out, because all you're doing is you're 800 or 1,000 grit in the clear coat first, and then all you're doing is spraying clear over it. So I guess overall, if you're going to do it this way, you know, you probably will have less peel. I mean, you know, assuming you spray it correctly, gun setup, yada, 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 but you should have less peel doing it this way than that way. And you're still going to have the mill thickness either way. Either on both sides, you're going to have the appropriate mill thickness. But a negative to this, I'm getting ready to test it right now. This is what we're going to test. I'm concerned that, say I'm doing a whole car and I need to cut and buff the whole car like something serious. And this thing needs to be laser flat, so I want to cut and buff it. Well, I'm curious as to what happens. You know, you put your 3 coats of clear on, let it set up, cut it, and then put a couple more coats of clear on top of that. So now we have 2 different clear coat applications at 2 different times. Now what happens if you break through the top and you expose the bottom? Is it going to bind together, or is it going to have a ring? You know, like if you was to break through to the base coat, you'd obviously see that. And we're going to see that in a little while. But that was one of my concerns with doing it this way, plus the time. This, guys, you're gonna clear this thing and it's going to sit outside or wherever. It's going to sit for a couple weeks, and then you're going to come in and re-sand it, retape it, clean it off, and re-clear it. So from a time standpoint, why not just do it all at one time? But I understand, you know, if you're just going to cut it and give it to the customer, this probably be, you know, off the gun looks better. I should be able to see that here. It's kind of hard to tell, but I can see just in the paint booth that this side is a little bit flatter than that side. That side has a little more orange peel, rightfully so. It's got 5 coats of clear stacked, so it's going to shrink up and it's going to have a peel. So let's get into it and see what we can figure out. All right, so first and foremost, I want to check the mills. I want to see if the film build is, you know, the same, or if there's any film build difference from doing it this way or that way. Obviously, we sanded a coat of clear, so you would think that that side should be less mills than this side. So we're going to test it. I got a mill gauge here. This is actually a good one. I've enjoyed this one. I will probably be posting a link to this in the description if you guys want to check this thing out. You know, you see those little magnetic ones that just pull out. You know, you stick it on there and pull it out and see how thick it is. But this one, digital readout, so you know what you're dealing with. So I'm gonna cut it on. We're gonna see what we got. All right, so this is the stack side. See if I can get you guys to see this. All right, almost 9 mils. Almost 9 mils. I'm just going to, 9.2. I'm just going to randomly check a couple spots. All right, so between 8.5 and 9 mils is what we're looking at on that side. So let's go to this side. Seven and a half. 7.8. 8. 8.5. 8.6. Okay, so very minimal differences, I would say. I mean, this is, you know, some of the 7s is a little less than that side, but not enough to make it worrisome. All right, so we checked our mills, and we're, I mean, very, very minimally thicker over here. I mean, it makes sense. You know, you put 5 coats on here, and you're putting 5 coats on here, but you're sanding a little bit off before you put the 5th coat on, so it makes sense. So let's just go ahead and sand both sides down and see what kind of reaction we get when we go to sand it down. What we're gonna do is just hit it real quick with a DA with 1500. Basically what we would do if we're gonna go ahead and cut and buff these panels, and we'll see what we got. All right, so if we were gonna cut and polish this thing, that's about all you need to do. There's a little bit more in here, but you wanna cut it flat. Let's see if I get a good angle. Nice and dull all the way across. You can see where the peel is all around the edges where I stopped the DA, but what you're gonna wanna do is nice and smooth. So this side's done. From that stage, I'd do 3,000, 5,000, go ahead and cut and polish it. I'm curious, I'm gonna go ahead and check the mills on it after that. I'd say based on that, it probably took, what, half a mil off or so, something like that? It's around 8 now. So let's go ahead and move on to this side. There. All right, so now we've got it about the same as that. Let's check the mill. Very similar readings on both sides. I'd say with the mill thickness, we're pretty darn close, you know, both sides. All right, so here's my concern with doing it the flow coat or recoat way versus stacking it. Just for the record, I've done it both ways. I mean, I'm not saying either way is right or wrong, but I've never done this, so I'm curious to see. You know, you got your first layer clear, wait a week or so, sand it. Now you got more clear. What about in between those 2 layers of clear? I'm curious to see what it looks like, you know, if you're at the polishing stage, if you accidentally break through the first couple coats of clear. Not necessarily breaking through your clear to the base, because you got the first couple coats on. But what about if you break through that second coat of clear? What will it do? Let's find out. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I got some 800 grit. To save time, really, I'm gonna take a section probably right here. And I'm gonna sand this down and see if I can feather it out from, I don't know, we can probably do bare steel all the way to the 1500 grit scratch and see if we can see a hierarchy or a layer in between the first 2 coats, or see what we got. Guys, the 800 was taking forever. I don't even know if I made any headway. I'm gonna switch it over real quick to some 320, just so I can go ahead and bust through. Then I can feather it out and we can evaluate it from there. So here's what we got. I switched over to 320 just to get it down. And now what I'm trying to do is just feather it out, trying to lay these layers out so we can see. I'm trying to get them wider. Obviously we have our bare steel, we have our sealer, we have our base, and we have our clear. My question to myself is, you can clearly see these different layers. Are we going to be able to see another ring for the two different layers of clear? Well, that's what I'm testing out to see. I don't see it right now, but here again, this is, I switched over to back to 800. Now I'm trying to feather it out. I'm probably going to go ahead and switch over to 1500 again just to get it to where I can buff it. So that's what we got. So theoretically, there should be another layer of clear. Well, there is, in between, somewhere between here and here, somewhere. If I had to guess, it should be somewhere around the same thickness of that base, maybe. Somewhere in here should be the ring. I don't know, maybe out here, we'll see. If there is a ring. I'm gonna go ahead and run some 3000 over this thing with some Trizac and go ahead and buff it. That way we can see it better. So I went over with 3000 Trizac, getting ready to buff it. And I didn't do the whole thing, but I got this one section right here I'm looking at. I'm not seeing another ring, so to speak, for the two different layers of clear, where the two different layers of clear are. Not to say it's not there, I don't see it. I'm gonna go ahead and run a buffer over this area. It might highlight it, might not, we'll see. All right, we got it polished up, or buffed up. Rambo, what are you doing? Let me get over here and get a better view. There we go. All right, guys, we got this thing mirror finished. Even the even the sealer's polished. I used a darker color. Hopefully I can see a difference, but I don't see any line, guys. Guys, I don't see any evidence of a separate layer of clear. And I know I've broken through to it, obviously. I'm down to bare steel. So somewhere there's another layer of clear, but doesn't look like to me you can see it. So maybe that's not a concern. Just for fun, I'm gonna throw some lacquer thinner on this to let that eat that base up, just so we can define it better. That should eventually eat that base up. Still not seeing any line even with the lacquer thinner. Not sure what else to do. Even with a sitting lacquer thinner, not seeing anything. Oh, hey, there it is. Uh-oh. There it is, guys. Found it. Uh-huh. We'll put some more lacquer thinner on it. See if we can get it to show better. But we found it, guys. There is a problem. Stay tuned. All right, let's sat on there for a little bit. Let's see what we got. That didn't work. There. Okay. See if I can get you guys in here. Get a good look at, there it is. That line right there, guys, that's the two different clear coat layers. So you got the last couple coats of clear, the first couple coats of clear, your base, your sealer, and your bare steel. It's faint, but it's there. I believe if you was to cut through this on a job and you had that showing, you would have a failure eventually. It wouldn't take long because that clear is raveling out to nothing. I went ahead and marked it with a paint pen. I marked the inside of it. And now it's hard to see once I put green on it. But it's this there. There it is. That little faint line right there on this side of the green. So what I'm gonna do, just out of curiosity, I'm gonna let this sit outside and see what the weather does to it. I'm not gonna finish buffing this, I don't think it matters. But I'm gonna see if that fails and how long it takes, if it fails or what it does, and we'll come back to this. But I'm gonna leave this marked. I'm sure the green will wear off in a little while. I feel pretty confident this is one big thick chunk of clear because we sprayed it all at the same time. It's 5 coats, it bonded together well. I don't feel like there's a need to test this. I might in a separate video or something, but hey guys, I went ahead and did this side. I didn't want to get any haters. So I did exactly what we did on that side and I got it buffed out, as you can see. And I'm getting ready to put just some lacquer thinner on it, which is exactly what we did on this side. So we see what we got. So the only thing the lacquer thinner did on this side was show me how poorly I prepped it for buffing. I didn't really take the time. You can still see the sand scratches and peel in it right here. But we don't have that problem from what this one did with that ring. That ring between the 2 layers of clear. We don't have that over here. So that pretty much answered my question about the stacking it with that concern. I really wanted to try the flow coat, re-clear, whatever you want to call it. And my concern from the get-go was I got to cut and buff this car pretty much regardless of what I do. So if I put two coats of clear, 3 coats of clear, cut it, put 2 more coats of clear on it, and oops, I broke through, somewhere, or I broke through, and when I mean break through the first coat of clear, the first set of clear versus the second set of clear, and what that would do. That was my concern the whole time, and I can tell you right now, I'm gonna do it this way. That makes me nervous. Hey guys, this is gonna conclude our video on stack clear versus flow coat clear. And I think I'm gonna stack my clear. I mean, y'all tell me what you think. Put something in the comments. There's millions of painters out there in the world. Somebody might tell me I'm crazy, but as long as you don't put it on too heavy and you know what product you got and you know what it's capable of doing, I think this is the better option. One, it saves you time. And two, if you happen to cut, too much off, you still got plenty of clear left. Versus if you cut too much off while you're buffing on the top and you buff through the first layer of clear, you're going to have that failure problem in the future. So, guys, if you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button. We're going to be doing a lot more of these testing videos and how-tos. So comment below, let me know what you think. I appreciate everybody watching.